Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWireTV video interview. We're here at Adobe Summit 2026 in Australia, in Sydney, and I'm here with Fahad Mattoo. He's the Head of Solutions Consulting at Adobe Australia and New Zealand. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Thank you for taking the time. Now, I always like to start by asking if you could please briefly recap Adobe's mission and the value that you bring to customers globally in 2026.
Thanks, Alex. And look, Adobe's mission has always been empowering everyone to create, and that hasn't really changed. So we're still empowering everyone to create, particularly in this agentic AI world. And it's actually become even more important that we're actually adding humans into the loop so that they are working in a symbiotic relationship with those agentic systems. So quite simply, we are enabling everyone to create.
Yeah, and you know, in this agentic AI world, I mean, I heard on stage, not just human in the loop, but human on the loop. And I was at a presentation with a clear expert on AI. I mean, he knew for his company all this incredible stuff. He was doing pilot tests in December 2022. That's like with ChatGPT 3.5, like weeks after it launched. So really early stuff. And I asked him a question about human in the loop and human on the loop, and he'd never heard of human on the loop. And actually he subsequently changed his presentation to include that. So I was very happy to hear that you guys mentioned it on stage. This was in the second keynote. And, yeah, so you guys clearly know what you're talking about.
That's good to hear.
Now, the keynote's big shift was from automation to orchestration, with Coworker pitched as outcomes-based, and I love that. A lot of people have recently, over the last 6 months, been talking not about features and benefits, but outcomes, and that really is the whole deal. But, you know, the Coworker pitched as outcomes-based rather than task-based. Now, before Coworker delivers an outcome instead of just more activity, what does an ANZ enterprise genuinely need in place first across data, content operations and governance, and where do most of the local customers you walk into fall short today?
That's a great question, Alex. And look, if you look at the conversations and how they've changed in the boardrooms over the past 12 months or so, absolutely everyone's moved to asking, what can AI do in driving the business transformation and business outcomes? And that's where we're focused on at the moment. So if I talk about our customers, particularly some of the customers that I talk to every day, there are certain things that they need to put in place before they can go on to this agentic bandwagon, as you may call it, to drive customer outcomes. The first one, as you said, data. It is the most important thing. And the way that Adobe looks at it, it is providing the enterprise context to these agentic AI systems so that they actually work on the basis of that context. The second one is content. Content is probably still the king, but in the world that we're living in at the moment, content is exploding. There's the need for driving more and more content, and that's where these agentic AI systems come and help our customers drive that. And the third one, as you said, trust and governance. Adobe has been a big proponent of trust and governance. We've actually built all of our systems and agentic AI systems ground up, keeping trust and governance in place. So in my conversations with the customers, I always ask them to look at, firstly, what's the data, what's the context you're feeding into these agentic systems? It's the good old saying, your outcomes are only as good as the data that you feed into
garbage
it.
in, garbage out, as we heard in the 50s.
And it's still very relevant, particularly with the agentic AI systems. So that's the conversation.
Yeah, and I've heard context a lot over the past 12 months at various conferences I've been to around the world. And also, I've heard many times as well that these pilots are failing, 90% of them, 95% of them fail. But a lot of those were started in the pre-agentic era, because 2025 was all about talking about how agentic was coming. Yep. 2026 is actually delivering it. And so it must be the case that now that we have these agentic AI systems that are a lot smarter than the pre-agentic era, where it needed a lot more human interaction. I mean, we're now talking about autonomous enterprises, and in fact, that was one of the fourth, that was like step 4 on one of the graphs I saw today.
Absolutely.
But these pilots must actually be moving beyond the pilot stage and actually really delivering real benefits.
Absolutely, and look, pilots are there to test something. Yeah. So, and that's Adobe's approach is, we've opened up our systems, our agentic systems, through the MCP servers, through RAGs, and what we want to do and what we want to empower our customers to do is actually work where they're comfortable. So they don't need to change the way that they work. Through these MCP servers, they can actually feed this enterprise context that Adobe holds on their businesses into those systems like OpenAI's, Anthropic's, ChatGPT, whatever their teams are currently using and are comfortable in using.
Yeah, and one of the things I heard in the second keynote, you know, AI is not a tool, it's your teammate. And these MCP servers, this whole digital workforce, I mean, this is becoming absolutely real, and it's actually very exciting. I mean, my instance of Claude is my workmate too.
Absolutely.
It's my co-pilot, not my autopilot, as I've
Absolutely. And
yeah.
I tell my team all the time that we need to use these agents to actually help us achieve the outcomes that we're driving. They are there to support us, augment what we do, and that's what we should be doing for our customers as well.
AI superpowers. I love that idea. No, we don't need an Iron Man suit to take advantage of those superpowers.
Not anymore.
Now, content supply chain is one of your stated focus areas, and Jeremy Wood quoted customers expecting content demand to climb 5x over 2 years, while 53% say their supply chain is too resource intensive. Now, generating 5x, or 5 times, as one of my friends likes to correct me all the time, he says all these young people say 5x, and it's like, no, it's 5 times. So generating 5 times more assets with Firefly and Gen Studio sounds great until the bottleneck moves to review, brand safety, and approvals. And in fact, we saw on the stage how you can actually have the Adobe system be part of that and help you to get beyond that. So for a lean ANZ marketing team, what does the new operating model actually look like, and which roles change or disappear?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, Alex. So if I even talk about some of the customer conversations just this week, every time, be it C-suite, be it heads off, the first question that they ask me is, the amount of content that we now need to power our customer experiences, it's just going berserk. So how can you help us? Now, Adobe's approach at this is, again, where we provide value to our customers is actually helping augment creation of this content. Now, at the end of the day, our ethos live in being a content creative company. What it enables our customers to do is use technology or solutions like Gen Studio for performance marketing. We've also just announced Gen Studio for commerce retail media networks. And what it actually helps them do is run an end-to-end agentic AI solution with humans in the mix, humans on the loop, as you said, to validate whether that content is on brand, it's following the brand guidelines, and finally approve. And Adobe's view at running these autonomous or semi-autonomous agentic systems is that it depends on the risk tolerance. So if it's a low-risk workflow, you can let agentic AI autonomously run that. If it's a medium to high-risk workflow, that's where you want humans to validate, approve before it's published.
Yeah. And as I just heard Garrett from Qantas saying, he said that the agentic or the AI systems that we're using today are not going to be the ones we're using in 5 or 10 years' time. We'll probably have a lot more trust at that moment because they will have had so much more experience. But we're dealing with 2026, and that's today.
Absolutely, and it's an ever-changing environment. Like, how much has changed just in the 12 months? But I think the beauty of Adobe being there for our customers for the past 43 years is that we actually understand our customers inside out in terms of what are their needs for customer experience orchestration. We work with 20,000 customers worldwide that we are embedded into their workflows. We're actually helping them deliver that customer experience for their customers. So we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of context that we're able to enable our customers drive great customer experience workflows for their customers.
Now, Adobe spent US $1.9 billion on SEMrush, and actually somehow that news rushed me by, but that's an amazing purchase because that's a very useful tool. And your people told the room that 80% of businesses have gaps inside how they show up in AI platforms. Now, take a concrete ANZ brand, say a mid-tier retailer or a bank, that's effectively invisible inside ChatGPT and Gemini today. What are the first practical moves with Adobe brand visibility, and how do you measure return on appearing in an LLM answer when the attribution is so murky?
Great question, and look, we're actually really excited about Adobe brand visibility. Bringing SEMrush into the fold, it's a massive unlock for our customers. Now, if we look at SEMrush, it's a global leading brand when it comes to SEO and intelligence optimization, and combine that with our tool like LLM Optimizer, it provides an end-to-end ability for our customers to be able to show up in those LLMs in the right context. So the question that you asked is, how do they do this? Now, if we look at some of our mid-tier retail brands, for example, and funny you asked me because I was in a conversation with a similar brand just last week, and the first thing that they needed to look at is how are their competitors showing up in these LLMs? If they're not showing up, or if they're not showing up in the right way, how are their competitors showing up. So Adobe Brand Visibility actually provides them with that insight. And on top of that, they actually can look at the prompts, or what are the keywords that the customers are actually searching for and looking for brands like themselves, and then use the insights that Adobe Brand Visibility provides them to optimize on the fly. So again, for brands that are mid-tier with lean teams, it's a massive unlock, because now they don't need massive teams to be able to achieve something like this. They can do it through Adobe Brand Visibility.
Now, Qantas Head of Design, Digital Experience and Performance, Garrett Walters, I mentioned it before, followed the demo with a blunt counterpoint. Being mentioned by an LLM gets you in the game but doesn't win it. And since AI is, and I love this acronym, the average of the internet, that's what AI in that case stands for, the real lever is delighting customers so they leave good reviews that clearly you don't control. Google doesn't like that when you have fake reviews. Nobody does.
Yeah.
So when an ANZ customer says the product and the service matter more than the MarTech stack, how do you respond without sounding like you're selling a fix to a problem you just named?
Yeah, I think that was a really good view from Garrett, and it highlights that in this world, it's still really important for the humans to provide a great experience and brands to provide a great experience to our customers so that they get these reviews. Now, we won't say that MarTech technology is there to change that. I think, like I said earlier, the technology is there to augment, and we still need to, as brands, provide a great customer experience to our customers. But what Adobe does is, with the context of what is available to us, we can then use that information through the MarTech to provide a great digital experience and customer experience orchestration. Now, what Adobe does is it helps brands understand, firstly, what is out there, what are people actually saying out there, what type of reviews are people providing in that digital realm, so that customers can act on it. And like I said, with Adobe Brand Visibility, it actually goes end-to-end across SEO, GEO, and then optimizing on their site as well, so that they show up in the right way.
Yeah. Now, Adobe Coworker leans heavily on permissions, approvals and brand rules, and your Marriott demo ran an autonomous pre-flight check before publishing. For ANZ enterprise facing Privacy Act reforms and a widening agentic attack surface, how much can an agent really publish or act before a human signs off? I mean, we did cover sort of this before, but I guess we're going to go into a bit more detail.
Yeah.
Where do you draw that line for customers today, and what's the failure mode that keeps you up at night?
Yeah, it's a really important question, particularly in Australia and New Zealand, where the trust, privacy and governance is a major factor for our customers, particularly in the regulated industries. Now, Adobe's view at this is very simple. The systems that we have put in place and built are ground up with privacy and governance and trust in mind. So what that enables our customers to do is use their risk tolerance to drive how they want to set up these workflows. And I'll give you a quick example. In customer conversations, certain workflows are very simple. Low risk, it might be a quick image creation using brand guidelines, and that's where technology that we today announced as well, called brand intelligence, plays a role. So over time, it learns from what has been approved, what has been rejected, what are some of the changes that have been put into the workflows of how that content has been used and how that apply within the brand guidelines. So it then learns from that and provides value to the customers, where they can easily then go, this is a low risk image creation, I can probably let agentic AI autonomously do this. But take that now, if it's like a massive brand campaign that is being addressed to the whole customer base, you probably want more checks and balances there. And that's where then customers can choose to have multiple different humans in the loop, whether that is at the start for the brief, validating the brief, to the final approval before publishing as well. So we're putting that into the hands of our customers so that they choose what works best for them.
So let's park the demo magic for a moment. Your team built the Marriott flow with admittedly fictitious data, because that's how these demos are done on stage, and it ran flawlessly from signal to live campaign. When you walk into a real ANZ customer carrying 15 years of messy data, and that's one of the big things I hear all the time at these conferences as well, you've got to get all your data cleaned up. You can't just sprinkle magical AI fairy dust and hope that your data just sorts itself out. No, you've got to spend time working on it. But anyway, when you walk into a real ANZ customer carrying 15 years of messy data, a legacy stack and a nervous risk team, what actually breaks first? So, for ITWire readers, what's realistically achievable in the first 12 months, and what part of the keynote vision is still a couple of years away?
Look, this is an amazing question, and literally every single customer conversation, we get into the details of asking this. What I usually suggest to my customers is you can't boil the ocean at once.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is you need to take one step at a time and then iterate. And I'll give you a customer example as well. A couple of years ago, probably about 12 to 18 months ago, we were working with a major customer here in Australia, and they were looking at using some of this agentic capability on their website, from brand visibility, taking on to actually cloud service and delivery through cloud service.
And that was agentic capability from 12 months ago. It's vastly improved now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the approach that we took there is, let's start small. Let's look at your top 10 to 20 pages across your website and start with those. Not your home page, because you don't want to go big bang the first time. Let's learn from that. What is the learning that we're taking from those pages? What's working, what's not working, what's resonating with the customers, and then use that on an ongoing basis. What this lets you do is you can actually, firstly, your risk tolerance goes down, so your teams are now working on smaller projects, and then you're applying those learnings across multiple different teams as well. So starting small is what I usually suggest to my customers, is then iterating and going from there.
Before we get to a couple of fun questions, is there anything else from today's keynote presentation or today's content that you want to let the audience know about whilst we have this chance?
Yeah, look, Alex, what I want to round this out with is it's a really exciting time for us as Adobe and our customers. And you heard us today announce a couple of capabilities that are going to empower our customers to move into this agentic AI world with Adobe. I want to talk about a couple of those announcements. So the first one was the CX Enterprise. So CX Enterprise is Adobe's way of looking at an end-to-end agentic workflow for our customers, and we look at it from three different use cases. So brand visibility, how is your brand showing up in the LLM world? Content supply chain, how are you keeping up with the content creation asks or needs from your customers, and then customer engagement, and this is around the journey orchestration. And also we talked about the CX Enterprise Coworker, and this is our way of letting our customers use these agentic capabilities powered by the enterprise context, their enterprise context, so that they can actually drive great customer experiences for their customers. But also, whatever you're driving, whatever customers or journeys, customer experience or journeys you're driving for your customers, you want to know how they're performing. And we also talked about the CX analytics. That's the underpinning layer that feeds the insights back into the hands of our marketers so that they can iterate and learn from those insights. I think it's a really exciting time for marketers, for Adobe and our customers.
So my third last question, ask if you could please share a memory of your first personal computer.
Oh wow, we're going back. I think it was probably, I was in year 9 when my dad got me my first computer, and I still have this feeling of like a whole new world had opened up for me. It was great. I could play video games on the computer, but at the same time, there's a whole heap of other things that I now had access to that I didn't before. It definitely felt like I was Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole. It was such an amazing experience, and I kind of feel like we're there now. We're there now as marketers, as business professionals. We're seeing that happen right now, and as Adobe, like I said, our mission is empowering everyone to create, and that's the technology that we currently have. We actually have the ability for everyone to pick up the tools that Adobe provides them and actually create something magical.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that magic has come back. Do you remember if it was a PC, like running DOS or Windows?
It was a PC with, if I remember correctly, I think it was 4 gigabytes of hard drive, and I think it was 32 megs of RAM.
Which was a monster back
It was
then.
a monster, yeah.
Kids don't know how simple it was. I mean, you can have emulators, but they don't really understand.
No.
I've got a friend whose kids just think AI has always been there, and it's like, no. We used to have to just read encyclopedias.
No, those massive CRT monitors. Love it.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Now, my second last question is to ask if you could please share some of the best advice you've received in life to help you get where you are today.
Yeah, look, I think the best advice that I have received over my career, and which I try to impart into my team as well, is curiosity. I think we're living in a world where everyone's trying to figure things out, particularly when it comes to agentic AI. So it pays to be curious. We need to be curious about how we can drive outcomes for our businesses, how we can use technology to embed into these workflows and augment what we are able to produce as humans at the moment. Humans are still in the loop, very much so. I don't think this technology is here to replace humans, it's actually to augment. And the more we can use this technology to help us drive better customer experiences for our customers and our brands, I think that's going to be the way forward. And one parting thought I want to give is, I think we have moved from experimentation to outcomes. We're in a world now where more and more people, particularly C-suite members, are going to be asking us about what business outcomes are we driving. And you saw that today with the technologies that Adobe has announced. That's where our focus is. Our focus is now on business outcomes, no longer on experimentation.
It sounds like you've given me your final message already, but I'll ask you anyway. What is your final message to the iTWire audience?
My final message is, look at what business outcomes you will be able to drive with the technology that's available to you. The second thing that I kind of talked about earlier is also start small and iterate. We need to take those learnings and apply them on an ongoing basis. Don't try to boil the ocean. Start small and make it big. Impact is where it'll matter.
Yeah, I think the terminology is something like, you eat the elephant one bite at a time, not the whole thing in one go.
I love it, yeah.
I mean, I've never tasted an elephant, never want to, but it's an apt kind of visual. Well, Fahad Mattoo, the head of solutions consulting at Adobe Australia and New Zealand, thank you so much for the time. I wish you the best of success for the rest of the conference, and I do look forward to speaking again in the future.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me. Great speaking with you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.